The inclusion of loot boxes in the gaming industry is increasingly becoming problematic. As a common pastime, the medium of video games is widely used for entertainment across the globe. The medium, however, is continuously expanding, and with that comes the need to generate income, which is commonly found in the form of loot boxes, which share an unfortunate link to gambling. There needs to be a push legally to impose heavy restrictions on games with these items, despite their function as a source of income, to already expand the growing medium. As a source of income for companies, there is a reason to believe loot boxes have become necessary. A significant defense for these can be found in the costs to develop, expand, and upkeep games that make up the medium. There is a need to create a source of monetization in those that are released for free, as they provide no immediate income for companies. And in addition to allowing free games to be made, their inclusion can also lower prices for paid games, which benefits everyone. There is also a growing market of users who are willing to pay, with a predicted sum of more than 230 million gamers who will buy loot boxes in 2025, which was sourced from Juniper Research, who did a study on their predictions for how many people will be buying in their revenue. And the following years will likely increase. Paired with the growing need for revenue, there appears to be an overall positive in the use for both sides of the transaction. Unfortunately, it's not entirely positive, and there are dangerous implications for some users. While there are benefits for the inclusion and continued legalization, there are also reasons they shouldn't be allowed to persist. Most notably is that of their similarity to gambling, and the question of whether they should even be permitted in the medium with such a broad and diverse user base, ranging from little kids to adults. And this is due to how they function similar to that of essentially spinning a wheel and winning a prize from that wheel. This link is further proven through various studies which have proven how, as quoted from a study from Zendel and Cairns, who did a study on the link between loot boxes and gambling, individuals who did not have gambling problems spent significantly less money on loot boxes than those who were problem gamblers or those at risk of problem gambling, and it's a clear sign of a correlation. While the availability of these items is not a definite cause of developing any problems, they do still profit off of those susceptible to gambling addiction, and will benefiting off an expanding user base that could overlap with those at risk with no current restrictions in the US is again becoming a rising problem that has still yet to be addressed. An issue that may be brought up to counter this is whether or not these purchases should be made legal and how purchasing can be considered a voluntary transaction, since most buyers may have an idea of already what they're purchasing. But the thing is, with the majority of these systems, they intentionally or not use the risk gambling addiction by using techniques that could cause certain individuals to return to or take advantage of those at risk of gambling addiction. Due to this risk, there have been already legal actions taken in various countries such as the Netherlands and Belgium, and currently Australia. And due to how loot boxes have been banned in these countries, there is precedent for legal action to be taken for their inclusion. And just as there are already regulations for standard gambling within the US, there should be equal regulations in the medium of gaming, which houses a large amount of potentially vulnerable users and would provide protections for most who are vulnerable, while also still allowing studios to incorporate the systems to an extent to allow for continued and sometimes necessary income. With the inclusion of loot boxes in the rising medium of gaming, the risk of its links to gambling also rises. Despite the benefits it may have for some studios in need of the money to fund the expansion of the medium, the risk is still great, and with various countries already imposing bans and restrictions based on studies which showcase links to gambling, the US needs to enact restrictions in order to protect the increasing number of those at risk. Ultimately, the cost upon users outweighs the benefits for the creators.